about that today and what's going on. So my name is Ben, I am Director of Design at the Government Digital Service. It's a relatively new thing, probably just over two years old in the UK government. And I'm going to, as I said, kind of tell you about what we're doing, why that might be interesting to you if you're not government, because lots of people in the audience aren't governments. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about design's role in what we call digital transformation. So we exist because this lady, who's a dot-com entrepreneur in the UK, was asked by the government 3 years ago to write a report and look at kind of government digital stuff and write a report into that. She wrote this brilliant report, brilliant partly because it's really short, it's like 10 pages long, it's like a long letter. And also brilliant because she called it revolution, not evolution. And that's kind of all you need to know, really. You know, we need a revolution in this stuff, not just an evolution. We can't just change little bits, we kind of need a revolution. The report was submitted to our Minister, Francis Moore, this chap. And unusually, I think for reports in general, he just said, yeah, do all that. Normally what happens is people say, well, thank you very much, we'll do a bit of that, we'll do a bit of this, we'll do another report about that, you know, we're definitely not doing that, you know, but thank you. He just went, yeah, go and do that. As well as being really short, she set out 4 really clear actions. So this is the other thing reports don't do, right? They don't give you clear actions, you know, just more reports is probably the best answer to a report. But she set four really clear actions. So create DDS, create the government digital service, create something that sits centrally in government with the power to control user experience. And hire that talent from, you know, we're in London, there's plenty of great digital talent, hire that talent and get them to come in. 2, fix publishing. So by publishing, we mostly mean information. So government department websites, kind of citizen and business information, how much tax you have to pay, what age my kids have to go to school, you know, those kind of things. That's what we mean by publishing. Fix transactions. A transaction is like renewing a permit or a license, or buying car tax, or applying for a passport, you know, those kind of things. 3 is fix transactions, and 4 is go wholesale. And go wholesale is harder to define, but that means, you know, on one hand it means make APIs and stuff like that, so people can build stuff with government data and government services, but also, you know, open up procurement to a wider selection of people than perhaps government was working with before. And that's what we call digital transformation. And the strategy for all of that, we like to say the strategy is delivery. So, and you can see it there, it's on a big, this is an event we organised in January as a way, that's open to the public, as a way of getting government together and people from the public were there. And we kind of say, you know, we should be delivering often, iteratively, quickly, and repeatedly. And so the strategy is just delivery, I mean, that's it. And what you've got there on stage is various government people and ministers and so on and so on. And what they were doing in that day was demoing alpha and beta digital services, you know, live on the conference Wi-Fi, with all the frightening things that entails. They were actually demoing those services, and that's kind of what we mean by, you know, the strategy is just make stuff, keep making stuff, and keep making it better. One of the other things Martha's report said was that there should be one place, there should be one government website, single domain, as we like to call it. There should be one place where all this stuff sits. So previously, before we came along, there was over 1,700 different government websites. Each one has got a different look and feel, each one has got different user experience, you know, each one, the language is different, they all look completely different, and she just said there should be one, and there should be one user experience. And what that means is, if you book a book to go and do your driving test, that should be the same user experience as booking to go and renew your passport. You know, they should be the same. If you buy something, that should be the same all across government. Because you shouldn't have to learn how government works to be able to interact with government. You shouldn't have to relearn how to do something every time, you know, you need to get something from government. Typically, people visit government websites once or twice a year, you know, to do the thing they have to do. They don't have time to learn stuff. They're not coming back every day. They can't learn new behaviours. You know, we need to make it really simple and really obvious. And I mean, I don't know if you've ever used a government website, but typically no one wants to hang out. You know, no one's ever paid the tax and they go, brilliant, what else can I pay while I'm here? You know, no one's ever done that. So we need to make this stuff really simple and put it in one place. I'm just going to play a little video now because it kind of explains some of that and show. It's really hard to show websites in a conference like this. You know, put screenshots up, and whatever you do, the screenshots look rubbish, and there's no way of kind of making that work. So there's just a little video that tells you a bit more about it.
Hi, I'm Nadia Adiwumi. I work at the Government Digital Service, and I'm here to tell you about GovUK. We launched Gov.uk in October 2012. It replaced the two big central government websites, DirectGov and BusinessLink. The idea was to make something simpler, clearer and faster, something focused on users. Firstly, we took a careful look and worked out what services and information we actually needed to deliver. We thought, for instance, that we could probably stop spending taxpayers' money telling people how to have a went abroad, or how to identify different kinds of waves. We eliminated thousands of pages that no one ever visited. Then we made sure that the information we were providing was as easy to find and to follow as possible. This, for example, is the page on DirectGov that tells you about bank holidays. Now, it has all the information you need, and you'd think it'd be hard to do it better. But looking at how people actually use the site, we realised that what most people were searching for was the date of the next bank holiday. So we put that right at the top of the page, big and bold. We've done the same thing to more complex tasks, like working out how much maternity pay you're entitled to. Before, on DirectGov, you'd need to read all this information. On gov.uk, you just need to answer a few simple questions, and the site calculates the answer for you. In April 2013, we finished moving all departmental sites to gov.uk, together with the sites for number 10 and the Deputy Prime Minister's office. So instead of every government page having a different design and different navigation, every site now looks and works the same way. At the same time, we've rethought how policy is presented online. Before gov.uk, if you wanted to understand government policy on something like gangs, for instance, you'd have needed to visit all these separate pages. Now, there's a single page for each policy, and all the departments involved share the responsibility for keeping it up to date. You can even subscribe to those policy pages so that you're always kept informed of any changes. And if you're responsible for a particular policy, you can find out how often it's being looked at and how closely it's being read. Today, gov.uk is handling more web traffic than the sites it replaced at a far lower cost, and users get to the information they need quicker than they did before. Gov.uk is not perfect, and it's not finished. It's never going to be. It's designed to improve, to react to user needs. We've made thousands of changes to gov.uk, and we make small improvements almost every day. This idea, iterative, responsive change, is at the heart of everything we do. You should visit us at www.gov.uk. Hopefully, you'll see something you like. Something simpler, clearer, and faster.
Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit. There's some other stuff we're doing as well, so it's not just about a website. There's bits around technology, there's bits about capability, hiring a different type of civil servant, there's bits about performance, but we haven't got time to cover that today. So we'll do that another time. So one of the things we're doing now is 25 of the most important transactions in government, the big ones that will reach the most people, where we can have the most effect. These are just some of those. They're alphas and betas. This is registered to vote. So if you move house, you have to change, your address and tell the government. That's a very paper-based process at the moment. We're kind of designing that, so you'll be able to do that on your mobile. In fact, everything we do works on mobile. The site's fully responsive. The mobile traffic is soaring. It's really important. It also helps focus the design, I think. So we do that. This is a really interesting one, lasting power of attorney. So typically, I don't know if you have a similar thing in the States, but this is tends to be if your parents become mentally ill or something like that, and you may have to control their financial affairs or do something like that. You can apply to do this, and you can now apply to do this online. When we launched this service as a beta, the call centre started getting calls of people saying, "That's just a brilliant service, thank you." And this is a screenshot from the kind of back-end systems in the call centre. They had to add in a positive feedback button because the people in the call centre have to log what the call's about, and the other buttons are just, they're complaining like this and complaining like that, they need more guidance and so on. They had to add in that button. They were getting so much positive feedback, which is great. That's important, right? We're saving 1.1 billion pounds, but we'll skip that for now. So we've had some success design-wise. We've won Design of the Year, being Thomas Hedwick's Cauldron and Mezzo Piano's Shard, and so that's great. We won a D&AD Black Pencil. If there's any of you in the audience that kind of heard of the D&AD, that's all. That's really big. That's okay, we'll skip that. It's just great because it confuse loads of people. Like, why is the government website winning awards? And that article in particular is a news organisation in the UK desperately trying to find something wrong with it. And so they go, well, it must have cost millions of pounds. Oh, no, it didn't. Anyway. These are some nice things that people have said. So we're kind of using design to make stuff simpler for citizens. We can only do this by focusing on user needs, really focusing on user needs. We have these 10 design principles, the URLs there, you can have a look at them. But the number one is the most important one. The number one is, start with needs, start with user needs, focus on users, make stuff, test stuff, relentlessly focus on users. Tim O'Reilly, who many of you here will know, is a big fan of these, and this is some nice things that he said.
I was just saying that it seems to me that, for example, the GDS design principles are the most significant piece of UI guidance since the original Mac design principles back in the 80s.
That's very flattering. I don't think that's true either, but it's a nice thing that he said. So, number one is start with needs. The full principle is start with user needs, not government needs. Work out what the user is trying to do, and then design the service around that, not what the government process is. And to give you an example of how we're trying to embed that in this culture of government now, this is going to play you another little video of our minister who was asked a question in the Houses of Parliament in the UK. This is how he replied.
Of the government digital service, which is committed to ensuring that as we reform the delivery of public services, they are designed around the needs of the user, rather than has been far too often the case in the past, being designed to suit the convenience of the government.
That's kind of an amazing thing for him to say in the House of Commons. I'm eternally grateful to him for it was broadcast live. He's grabbed the video, you can use it. I kind of think that's also like a gift to anyone who's trying to get a user-centered culture in your organisation. You can play them that video and go, here's perhaps an organisation you wouldn't expect that understands this stuff. We talked about that in the video, so we can skip. So there are 10 design principles. We haven't got time to talk about those. Maybe next year, they might be back. The other one that's really important is the 10th one, which is make things open and makes things better. We really passionately believe in being open, and partly because it's public projects, public money, but I think partly as a group of people, we just believe in that. So all the code is on GitHub. Other countries and other governments are starting to use it. New Zealand has basically taken the code and they're completely, redoing their digital service, which is fantastic, and we encourage that. We publish everything we do in a thing called the Government Service Design Manual. That is stuff like code, but it's also stuff like it's got job descriptions on it. It's got, how to hire people. It's got how to organise a team. It's, everything we kind of do goes in there, really. And again, that's all public, that's all open. Why might this be interesting if you're not a government? I think because the people I talk to, any large organisation is having these same problems. Any large organisation is needing to transform themselves digitally. Any large organisation is gummed up by process and procurement and things, and they need to, start rethinking their organisation. I think there are lessons there. Those are some other nice things that people have said. Right, we still have a lot to do. We haven't finished. So of those 1,700 websites, there's probably about 300 that still exist that we're slowly folding into the platform. We're working on 25 of those transactions. There are 772 that we know about in government. I'm sure there are more we don't know about. We've still got a lot to do. And this is not about design. Obviously this conference is about design, and that's my bit. But sometimes it gets talked about as a design project, and it really isn't. You can't just be good at design, you have to be good at other things as well. And it's not about changing government websites either. It's not just about the website. It's much more about the service and making that end-to-end service user-focused. This is about changing government, changing the way government thinks, the digital transformation of government. Thank you.